Hello there, everybody. It is Tuesday night, so as always, a college football playoff rankings instant reaction. As always, if you want to support the channel, feel free to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below. A lot of controversial takes in this poll, so I would love to see what you all think about this one. Starting off, of course, number one, Georgia, still undefeated, 16-6 win on the road at Kentucky. Dogs are going to stay number one. We're not going to see a whole lot of changes in 2, 3, and 4 either, all playing the similar way. Ohio State playing tight at Maryland, getting the win. Michigan and TCU late field goals to carry them to wins over Illinois and Baylor. The real party gets started in terms of controversy at number 5, where LSU, yes, LSU is number 5, and USC is number 6. I've already seen a lot of people get upset about this. How is a 2-loss LSU ahead of a 1-loss USC? Folks, you're going to look at it, and I know people hate saying it, people hate seeing it, but the SEC, when you have that power that they have essentially, how they've controlled college football the last 10 years essentially in terms of who gets in where, the SEC is a better conference than the Pac-12 in the committee's opinion. That's something the Trojans can overcome if they beat Notre Dame this week. That's still a big if. Trojans are favored by 5.5. We'll have to see what happens on Saturday Night Football. I would say USC still controls their destiny, and don't get too mad about this yet. LSU still has to go play Georgia my goodness, you got to play Georgia in Atlanta. That's never a fun place to play the Dogs. Not like there's a good place to play Georgia anyway. But LSU more than likely will lose that game, and this won't even be an issue in 2 weeks. If you're a USC fan, I wouldn't get too mad about this yet. LSU's more than likely going to lose to Georgia. You got to focus about beating Notre Dame this week and then taking on, I would think, Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. Alabama at number 7, Clemson at number 8. The same scenario here, but folks, you look at the ACC. Can you find the ACC team ranked that is not North Carolina? You can. It's Louisville, all the way down at 25. So the Tigers have those quality wins there, but again, if you're Alabama, you have more losses, but you play a tougher schedule. They're going to reward you for that. Yes, you can get mad about that and say, well, that's only because they play in the SEC. I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't know what in the world's going on here. We'll have to see. Texas is ranked again. That helps Alabama. Ole Miss, yes, they took a tumble, but they are still ranked. And my goodness, the only ACC teams you see here besides the Tigers, it's North Carolina, who just suffered a bad loss to Georgia Tech, and Louisville, who's been bouncing around at 7-4. So we're having to see what happens there. Tigers can still make the playoff, I believe, but it's going to take a lot. And I mean a lot of chaos for them to have even a shot. And it's all going to start with what happens all in front of them. A lot of it they can't even control, so we're going to have to see the battles that happen there. Moving on in the rankings, Oregon moves to number 9 following their win over Utah, and Tennessee, after getting just flat out embarrassed in Columbia, falling all the way to 10. I think that's fitting for Tennessee. You still have to look at it as the overall body of work. Yes, they lost to South Carolina. Yes, a lot of people are making fun of Tennessee right now and down on the Vols. Yes, Hendon Hooker got injured. They still have to play Vandy. We can make fun of Tennessee if they lose to Vandy, but you've got to keep in mind, no one expected Tennessee to be here this year. They're still building. No one expected this for the Vols. This is still a great season for Tennessee. I don't really understand the expectation shift from, okay, this is a nice, fun Tennessee team that's just finding their way to, oh, well, now they have to win the national title or else the season's a failure. I absolutely do not understand where that came from. Yes, Tennessee will have some problems against Vandy, obviously not having Hendon Hooker. Not going to be a fun time there. But Penn State, they're just chilling. One of the few teams that did not move in the entire poll. The Nittany Lions staying put at 11. Kansas State moving up to 12, and Washington moving up to 13. K-State, they're trying to get in that Big 12 title game. They want that rematch with TCU. You blew an 18-point lead earlier in the year to them. If you can just beat Kansas, which is a lot more difficult to say this year than the previous few years, if you can just beat Kansas, you go to Arlington to take on the Horned Frogs. And then Utah at 14, Notre Dame at 15. Get ready, folks. Top 15 matchup with the Fighting Irish and the Trojans. Always a fun matchup between those two. Should be a fun one. And if you're USC, like I said earlier, you want that quality win, you want that prove me win, there it is. It's right there. It is right in front of you. All you have to do is go win that game. Florida State at 16, North Carolina falling to 17, UCLA 18. Well, I forgot about Florida State mentioning the ACC, but Florida State's kind of in that weird position where everyone seemingly forgot about the Noles this year. No one really expected them to be where they are. They're still building up. I mean, even I forgot them just a few minutes ago. But my goodness, Florida State, they're having a good season. UCLA falling to 18, Tulane up to 19, Ole Miss all the way down to 20. Beavers, how about Oregon State at 21? They're so close to cracking the top 20, but hey, they'll take any chance they get to stay in this bowl. What a season Oregon State's having. Another team under the radar, no one really talking about them. They're still finding ways to win ball games. They're 8-3, folks, and a little known fact, they play Oregon this week in a game technically not called the Civil War. We're all going to still call it the Civil War anyways. That is going to be an absolute battle between the Beavers and the Ducks. And then UCF, this one's a real head-scratcher to me. I don't get it. I don't get how UCF only falls 2 spots for losing to a, at the time, 3-win Navy. This one, I don't get it at all. I do not understand how you keep UCF. Like, I understand maybe dropping them to 25. I can understand that. But I don't see how you get pretty much just, a glare for only putting up 14 points on Navy and losing that game. I really don't get that one there. And then Texas is back once again. What a ride the Longhorns have had. You're 18th in the country. You get beat by TCU. You fall out. You blow out Kansas this week, something that you really needed after what happened last year. Get that monkey off your back. But the Horns are ranked once again at 23. They somewhat need some help if they want to make the trip to Arlington. Texas has to beat Baylor on Black Friday. That should be a fun one to keep your eye on. And Cincinnati at 24, they take on Tulane this week. That's a big game in the American. The winner there will go to the American Championship game, and the loser's not going to make it. So, huge game again on Black Friday. That one will be at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern on ABC. And finally, closing it out, Louisville. They're 25th. They beat NC State. They do the classic, you beat the team and you get in. So, you beat 24, you get rewarded for it by being 25. Louisville has some quality wins this year. I mean, that NC State win looks good. The Wake Forest win looks good, even though Wake's no longer ranked anymore. Still a big win at the time. The Cardinals are slowly turning this thing around. Malik Cunningham, when he's been healthy, has been playing well. But no matter what, Louisville's been able to tough it out and get some big wins this season. So it is going to be interesting to see exactly what happens next week, because Ohio State will play Michigan. TCU's quest for an undefeated season, same as Georgia's, will still be going on. And this 5 through 8, everybody. And even if you want to throw Oregon in there at 9, 5 through 9 is going to get really interesting next week. There's so many different scenarios you could go through. What if LSU wins out? If they find a way to beat Georgia, is LSU essentially in the playoff? Would they put a 2-loss LSU that is 11-2 in this scenario over potentially a 12-1 USC? I don't know. We'll have to see when we get there. Clemson, it's the same way. You would think over time, getting their win, if they beat South Carolina, they would eventually jump Alabama, but I don't know. I've seen so many people saying, this is outrageous. USC should be 5. Clemson should be 6. Why is LSU and Alabama getting the benefit of the doubt? We all know why they're getting the benefit of the doubt. And you can just look at it. For Alabama, you played Texas, you beat them. You played Ole Miss, you beat them. You look at it, you played Tennessee, you lost to them. You played LSU, you lost to them. You've played a bunch of good teams. That's just a thing that has happened this year. You can't deny that. They have played good teams. And I get that people want to say all this SEC bias and ESPN controls this and they do all that. Well, if ESPN really controlled this, I would think they'd find a way to keep Tennessee a little bit higher. I think they would kind of stop knocking some of these Pac-12 teams down or some of these other Big Ten schools as well. I don't understand where that bias comes from, so they're very selective about it, I guess is the best way to put it. But that's all I've got for now. We might have a show Wednesday. Tomorrow we might not. It's going to be an interesting time in college football again. One of my favorite weeks of the year, from the Egg Bowl on Thursday and, of course, Maction going on as well, all the way to the Black Friday games, to the big Saturday rivalry games. It's going to be an absolute blast, and we will be here to cover it all as always. So if you want to see more coverage, be sure to once again to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, like the video, and comment below. Always helps with the algorithm, gets us out there. And until next time, have a great one, everybody.